So this is going to be part one of Who the Hell Did I Marry? Let's just get into it. So back in 2020, I decided I wanted to do van life. My ex at the time, he had just gotten deported and he no longer was here. We were not doing well while he was overseas and COVID was running rampant. So I was like, you know what? This is fine. We ended that relationship and I decided I wanted to travel. So I built out a van, a camper van, all by myself and decided that I was going to do the entire country. At the time I was living in Florida, where I do live now, but at the time I wanted to go to every state to see if there was a state that I liked better than Florida. So my plan was to take the camper van, spend all of 2021 traveling, and then pick a state and live there. So this is kind of where it all started in how I met the man that I married. Now, the crazy thing about it is our meeting was completely unconventional and unexpected, very unplanned. I was talking to somebody else when I met him. So yeah, I just feel like how that unfolded was not what I expected, but it was very unique. And I think that's what initially hooked me, to be honest. So it's 2021. I've officially built the van. I take off in January. I've done the whole West Coast by myself. I'm exploring all over the world. I've met a guy on the road. I was kind of casually talking to him. Nothing was serious. I wasn't serious. I had just gotten out of that relationship and I wasn't exploring anything. So it was just very casual all around everything that I did. I finally actually had gotten really lonely. So I texted my mom. My parents live in Colorado. And I texted my mom and I was like, hey, when I get past Salt Lake City, I think I'm going to hurry back to you guys. I just am could use some human interaction. And to be quite honest with you, I really hadn't been talking to anybody on the road as a single woman. It didn't really feel safe. So I just been kind of minding my own business, doing my own thing. So I was ready to be around people again. So she's like, well, hurry home and you can just kind of stay here an extra week or two. So I was deviating from my original plan and just gonna get to Colorado early. But I did tell her I wanted to stop in Moab, Utah, because I had never been there, even though I'd grown up in Colorado, which is not super far from it. Excuse screaming child. I'd grown up in Colorado, which is not super far from Moab, but I wanted to do Arch's delicate arch hike because it was on my bucket list. So I get to Delicate Arch. I start the hike. It's not an easy hike by any means for any of those wondering. I get to the top, and at the top of the arch, there's actually a couple getting engaged underneath the arch. Super cute, super adorable. And as that's happening, I see this man crawl through the arch, almost kind of in their proposal, kind of in the way. Kind of ruining the proposal, to be honest. And he got my attention. He was really cute. And, that was that. Everybody was kind of congregating after that proposal and was chit-chatting. So it felt really natural to just be talking to strangers and having conversations. And that man who had crawled through the hike or the arch was over there and we were chatting and chatting in a group setting. I remember at one point, you could tell he was wanted to talk to me, but didn't know how to talk to me because I was standing on this cliffside and there was a bird next to me. And he was like, that bird looks less scared than you do, or some stupid shit like that. Not smooth, but I've never liked a smooth man. Okay. So, we start chit-chatting. I could tell also he didn't want to come off too forward or be too strong in that. So he would talk to me for a minute and then he would disappear because he very clearly did not want to seem creepy. But I didn't really care at this point. I thought he was cute. I hadn't talked to anybody in weeks. So I was following him down the hike all the way down. And eventually we get to talking towards the end of the hike and he was like, well, that's so cool. You're doing van life. And I was like, would you like to see my van? Crazy pants of me. Crazy behavior. Don't do that, ladies. I show him my van. He asked me to lunch. So we decided to go to a Greek restaurant in the middle of Moab, Utah, which is not the vibe, but there wasn't a lot to eat out there. So we were like, let's just check it out. We ended up spending 5 hours in that Greek restaurant in Utah. So at the end of that 5-hour lunch, I felt confident enough. I was like, would you like to camp with me? Also, insane behavior. He agreed, and much to my mother's dismay and her yelling at me, she also was very mad about this because why would you go into the wilderness with a stranger and camp with them? Gabrielle, insane. So we did. We decided to camp together. Crazy. It's crazy. So we decided to camp together And honestly, we had a great night. Like, it was super fun, super chill. Nothing really happened. Like, we just hung out, we chatted, we made a fire, all of those things. So we had a blast. So then I was like, would you like me to show you my home state of Colorado? Because we were right on the edge of it. So he was like, yeah, I would love that. So I ended up not coming home and rushing home like I had told my mother, and instead very much like taking extra time exploring Colorado with this man. It kicked off really fast and furious. He automatically was telling me that like I was the love of his life and he was gonna marry me. And I just like always felt like, I don't know, like I had many guys in the past do that, and it was very like gaslighty, and they'd say they love me and then they immediately like, I think they'd hit like about a year mark and then they were out of love with me, and it was never that serious. So like I was like, you'll fall out of love with me, like that's how this goes. Like, I'm very lovable at first and then you get to know me and I guess I'm just not as cool. I don't know. But I was very much like completely gaslighting him and being like, no, you don't love me. You don't love me. Or maybe I wasn't gaslighting him. Maybe I was telling the truth. I don't know. Anyways, so we're traveling together. I actually took him to my hometown house. I would say it was like day 5 or 6, which is literally insane. But I think I'm going to need a part 2 to kind of break down exactly what went down next, because the next part is crazy.
Don't be like me. Be careful who you choose to be your partner. At that first red flag, believe it. You can't change that man. That man will be who he will always be. Whatever potential you see, that's just you. That's you shining. He's mirroring you. All that love you thought that he was giving you, that's the love that you were pouring into him. And if he has children, ask why he's no longer with his partner. What happened? Be more thorough about that, because somewhere in there, there's something that's gonna click. Save yourself from being in an emotionally, mentally abusive situation where you're the only person showing up in the relationship. And then when everything ends, you're the villain. You're the one who gave up. You're the one who caused this. All the pain, all the things you're doing, all you feel, all that pain, that's your fault. Because that's the partner you chose. At least that's what I'm being told. Every day. For a year. Because I'm not allowed to end a relationship because I'm no longer happy. Because it no longer serves me. Because it's no longer good for my mental health. No, those are invalid. No, it must be that I'm involved with another man. So choose wisely. So you're not 36. Having to restart your life. Not knowing how to pick up the pieces. Because he did a goddamn good job at destroying everything. I know crying is so fucking cringe. But really, I want this to be a reminder for myself. If I ever regret it, which I highly doubt it, but if I ever romanticize anything that I had with that man, remember that this moment, this is how I felt. Choose your partner so fucking wisely, so you don't have to go through this.
So here's a story time on how I found out that I got cheated on. One of the times, mind you. May I just start off saying I do not have any correlation with this man. I have not spoke to this man in over a year. This situation is honestly just super funny now that I look back on it. At the time, not very funny. I forget this man even exists, but this situation is like the root to a lot of my trust issues currently. So I think this is the summer going into sophomore year. My best friend at the time, her dad had his wedding. So she was dating the guy that I was dating at the time, like my ex. She was dating his best friend. I'm gonna go ahead and name drop because I don't really care. So my best friend's name was Adrielle, and then her boyfriend's name was Phoenix. My boyfriend at the time was Traden. So Traden has like a lake house in like Lake of the Ozarks. And he went there with his family like a lot. And, you know, me assuming like Like, I didn't have any, like, issues with that. Like, why would I be mad about that? So every time he went, I was like, okay, like have fun. Like, so he went to the lake one of the weekends that, the weekend that my friend had her dad's wedding. So I was obviously invited, and Trayden's best friend, Phoenix, who Adriel was dating, obviously went. So anyways, we're at the wedding, and it's like at the point where everyone's like dancing, like the ceremony is kind of like over. So periodically through the night, I'm like checking my phone to see if like he texted me or whatever, right? And I had been undelivered for about like 2 hours, but he was like active on and off. So I was like, okay. And by the way, he was at a bar. The man was at a bar. Not just any bar. A bar on the lake, mind you, in the summer. So, you know, I would like text him and like whatever, you know, didn't think much of it because again, didn't have a reason to, you know, not trust him. Come time to leave, I believe this was like sophomore year and I'm a senior now. So I'm pretty sure, like, I can't remember the exact like details, but I'm pretty sure he never ended up answering me for like hours. But Phoenix took me and Adriel back to my house so I could grab some clothes and then go back to Adriel's house. He was gonna drop us off at Adriel's house to have a sleepover. This is the good part. At this point, I'm suspicious, you know, I'm having my suspicions because that's like kind of weird. But I'm also thinking, you know, he's with family, like, they wouldn't let him do that. So I come up with the swell idea to tell Phoenix, and I'm like, yo, you should call Trayden and act like you just dropped us off and you just want to, like, see what he's up to, you know? And at this point, my best friend and Phoenix are acting, like, hesitant toward this. Like, they knew something was going on, and they knew, like, if they did call Trayden, that, like, I would find something out. It was really weird. So my friend Adriel, she was, like, talking to Phoenix, and she was like, I don't know, like, it's like, Trayden, or, like, Tabitha, like, do you want Trayden to be mad at you, or... And I was like, what? What does that even mean? So eventually, Phoenix is like, okay, like, whatever. So, he calls Trayden. And, again, me and Adriel are still in the car. Trayden answers, right? Which, again, why would you... I'm undelivered for hours. So Trayden answers, and Phoenix is like, hey, like, what are you doing? And Trayden's like, oh, like, nothing much, you know, like, whatever. And Phoenix is like, yeah, you know, well, Trayden asked, like, Phoenix, he's like, what are you doing? And Phoenix was like, oh, nothing much, like, I just dropped me and Adriel off, just, you know, heading home. Mind you, I'm in the backseat of Phoenix's car, and, like, he had, like, a convertible at the time, so, like, the top is off, so I'm, like, bent over, like, the console thing, listening to this call very, very carefully. And my best friend at the time, Adriel, is in the passenger seat, and she looks, like horrified the entire time, like, she looks worried for me, because she knows something. After Phoenix was like, I just dropped, like, the girls off, Trayden was, like, laughing, and Trayden's like, go look at what I just sent you. So Phoenix goes on mute, opens his Snapchat. There's a picture of Trayden posted up with this blonde chick. She's like in a bikini, his arms around her. He's posted up like this. I was like, let me just see the phone real quick. But then Trayden immediately like deletes the chat after like a minute. Like, I didn't even have time to like grab the phone. Like, I saw the phone like from Phoenix's hands, because Phoenix went off mute when he was like, can you like resend that, like resend it? And Trayden was like, no. So after that, I sat my happy butt back and I was like, okay. The entire ride after, silent. Mind you, we are actively on our way to Adriel's house. So, the rest of the night, I just contemplated texting him, you know, because, like, when something, like, again, this has happened to me several times. Not sure if I'm just, like, chopped or unk, or... But this has happened to me several times. And every time I've just wanted to, like, stay calm and, like... But I couldn't. So the second Phoenix dropped us off, I call him. Mind you, it's about 1 a.m. at this point. May also remind you that it's 1 a.m., meaning Trayden is still at the bar at 1 a.m. Which I know, like, that's not, like, unusual, but, like, again, it's the summer going into sophomore year. Or it's the summer after sophomore year. I truly can't remember. So the second Phoenix drops us off, I get out of the car, and obviously, you know, I call Trayden. And I was like, at first I kept my cool, okay? At first I was like nonchalant. So I was like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like how's your night? Like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, nothing, you know. I was like, sure. So mind you, I am at this point rolling around the sidewalk, crying on the phone. And I'm like, how could you do this to me? Like, whatever, like I'm sorry. Like, I was saying I'm sorry because I thought that, like, I did something to, like, make him feel like he needed to cheat. And he thinks I'm drunk. Like, I'm crying so much, it sounds like I'm drunk. So, the rest of the night, not much better. I'm gonna make a part 2 because, there's actually more to the story. Like, I literally promise, this is, like, the main part, but there's little blocks that, like, build onto the situation, so please go to part 2.
Guess what? We got mail. So in case you thought when I was reading those letters that I've read you that my ex writes to his daughters from prison, that he's changed and matured and isn't writing those things anymore, well, guess again, we have some new ones. So let's see what he's saying to our kids that are 5 and 3 from prison. And yes, I know he's likely just speaking to me, but the fact that he's addressed them to his kids speak a lot, and we will use these one day. We're gonna hold on to them, okay? So I'm not gonna read all of it because yeah, he's sweet, okay? He's you know, misses them and they're amazing, and you know, we don't need to go into that. We're gonna read the things that should not be said to children, especially when you're sitting in a prison cell. Okay, so this one is to my 3.5-year-old. I know it has been so hard on you and, oh, I'm sorry. This is to my 5-year-old. Okay. I know it has been so hard on you and Marley without me being with you through so much change. By the way, the change he is referring to is not that he's no longer here. He's referring to me moving in with a guy about a year after we divorced, and then a year later deciding that it wasn't for me and realizing that I moved a little too fast and wasn't quite healed. And now I'm dating somebody else a year later. So that's the change he's referring to. I have not moved in with said boyfriend. I learned my lesson. I am accountable, and I will talk all about that if anyone wants to know the mistake I made after divorcing someone who was very emotionally abusive to me. That's the change he's referring to, is the change that I put them through with moving and having different boyfriends, not the change of him getting arrested. Just know that when we are all back together, you will have a full understanding and point of view from not just your mom, but me too, and it will matter and make more sense. Because I tell my kids facts of what happened in the accident to their level of understanding and their age, and apparently he has something outside of the facts that will make everything make more sense or justify his behavior in his road rage accident. I'm sure there's some sort of justification in it, right? Like, there's a justification for him driving on the shoulder of the road trying to get past someone. Sure. You will have sleepovers at my house. You will have a way to call or FaceTime you whenever you want. You will spend time at my/our home that will be full of love, joy, God, good times, and safety. Signifying that my home does not provide that, and they don't get that here with me. And also, he's being so you will about this because the other day he was on the phone with the kids, and he was talking about like how he's gonna have like a backyard with like a playground in it for them when he gets out of prison, and a dog and their own rooms. And Remy, my oldest, looked at me and was like, when we go to Dad's, are you gonna stay at Josh's house, which is my boyfriend? And I was like,
I'm not really sure how that's all gonna look, honey. Like, I don't know when your dad's getting out. We don't have really, like, we don't know what any of that's gonna look like yet. So I'm not sure. Because I'm not gonna put like false ideas in their head. Like, I don't know how that's going to look, and neither does their dad. So we don't need to be filling their brains with all of this false promises and this false hope when we have no idea how it's gonna shake out yet. We don't know how old they're going to be when you get out. We don't know what the custody situation is going to be. We don't know where you're going to live, where I'm going to live. I don't know if I'm going to be living with my boyfriend at that time. I don't know any of that. So I'm not going to put that in their heads. Okay, next one. This one isn't as damning. This one is to also my 5-year-old. I'm very hopeful that this will be the last holiday season that we aren't together in person. You can't promise that. You can't. I mean, you're facing up to an additional 7.5 years behind bars. Yeah, you could get out in another 6 months. Could. But let's not say that to the girls. When the girls ask me, when is dad getting out of prison? I say, I have no idea, honey. I don't know. It could be a while. I'm not sure. I have like no information for you, and I'm not going to say hopefully by this day, because that's not fair. I know the last few years have been confusing. You don't say. I promise you, though, our home will be full of love, peace, and not so much of the change. You can never promise that there won't be change for these kids. Instead, get them comfortable in change. Change is inevitable. Like, these things that you're filling in their heads, promising them that there won't be change, there will be a lot of change when you're out. In fact, that will probably be the biggest change, is that they're going to be shifting from being just with me to some sort of custody arrangement and parent time with you. That is a lot of change. Don't be promising these girls that they're not going to go through change, okay? And also, like, I'm sure, like, again, he's referencing the confusing times being the times that I've put them through. Don't you think it's confusing that you were in this accident? That's confusing. Okay, this one is to my 3.5-year-old. Makes me sad how on edge your mom is 9 times out of 10 during our phone calls. Just because I'm not there right now doesn't mean anything. Patience is very important. I've learned so many things while being away from you and Remy. I got a phone call and it cut out, and I didn't know that I didn't record the rest. So I probably had something good to say, and now let's hope that I can say just as good as I was. That doesn't even make sense. Okay, so he said that he's learned a lot of things being away from you and Remy, and just know that our home will be full of love, happiness, good food, God, and our cute wiggle butt Abby Rue, our new French bulldog, who is being prepared for the 3 of us. I have a couple things to say about this one here. First off, I am on edge because of him. He has written expectations in our divorce decree that I limit distractions for the children while they are on the phone with him, and that I do everything that I can to encourage the phone calls. They're 5 and 3. And every time, like, I've tried painting their nails during the call, or tried like giving them ice cream or treats during the call. I've tried all these different things, and then it just bites me in the ass that actually distracted them more. When I'm trying to do things that like engage these little children in his phone calls, and I'm sorry, but it is really hard, and there's not a lot of understanding on his end, and so I'm on edge trying to get them to just say, I love you, Dad, like, I miss you, yeah, Dad, like, just responding to his questions, like, girls, just respond to your dad, did you hear your dad, like, and he spikes my nervous system. Yes, that is something I'm still healing from after 10 years of abuse with this guy. Yeah, my nervous system still goes way up here when I hear his voice and when I have to deal with his behaviors and comments and things that he says. So yeah, no, he's not going to know that, and I'm not going to tell him that because it's just going to give him my power, but that's just the fact of it. Yes, I am more on edge when he's on the phone with the girls. Something I got to work on, like an imperfection that I definitely dive into with my therapist all the time, because yeah, I don't want to be that way. But he has these expectations that are really hard. So second off, you have a French bulldog being prepared for you when you're in prison. You don't even know when you're getting out. Where did you get a breeder's number? You contacted a French bulldog breeder while you're in prison. to prepare a bulldog for you at what point? Like, and you named her already? This is wildly confusing to me and the girls. So you're saying that you're going to remove confusion? That's confusing. So anyway, I will be more successful than I ever was. Gotta get that image. My/our comeback story is going to make you so proud. I promise our life will not be the hectic nightmare it has been for the last couple years. Meaning that their life has been a nightmare with me. I beg to differ. They have been the happiest they have ever been since even prior to him being arrested. They sleep through the night really well. They are happy kids. They are more well behaved than they ever have been. Like, they are, people give me compliments all the time of like, you're doing so good. Given the circumstances, you can see the light return to your girl's eyes. If you look at pictures from before the accident or like the first year after the accident to now, they have life in their eyes. They look genuinely happy and like they're in good spirits. But they're living a hectic nightmare? Okay. No matter what you and Remy are just know that you will sleep over at my home. You will have your own bedrooms in my/our home. You don't know what your living situation is going to be like. So why are you promising them their own room? You don't know yet. Our home will be filled with love, joy, happiness, hope, God, and a comeback story that will make you and Remy so dang proud. You and Remy will one day have the real story soon enough because there's more to it than the evidence in the case that got him the charges that he got charged with and ultimately got him sentenced to the sentence that he's been sentenced with. Apparently there's more to that, more justification to justify his behavior and his actions that day. And instead of owning up to it and taking this as an opportunity to teach your kids that we're human, we make mistakes, Dad made a mistake, and this is what I have to do to fix that. These are the things that come with fixing my mistake. And it was a horrible mistake. And instead, maybe strive to teach them how to deal with their emotions proactively while they're younger, rather than justifying them and justifying their actions that are related to their emotions, because that's what you're teaching them. So
if you guys don't know, 8 months ago, my boyfriend cheated on me with a girl named Chloe Newton. I know a lot of you guys who are watching this are probably friends with her, and honestly, I don't really care because neither him or her have offered to pay for my therapy. So anyways, it all started with her trying to be my friend, and I thought I had a new friend. And then all of a sudden she started to add my boyfriend on stuff and view his TikTok profile, and I was like, that's kind of weird. Then a few days later, my boyfriend ended up breaking up with me. Then a few days later, they ended up shaboinking. And then I guess, this is going to sound horrible, but then I guess he ended up leaving her not too long after that. And I'll tell you the whole entire reason in a part 2 if you guys are interested in a part 2, why we're together now. But honestly, I have never been in such a bad mental state in my life. If you guys are wondering, why did Mackenzie stay at your house the whole entire summer? It's literally because I think she thought if she went home that I would not be okay. And that probably put so much pressure on her. Like, I just have to say thank you because she's genuinely the only reason I'm alive right now. Like, if she would not have stayed with me and been there for me, I would not be here right now. When I say it got so bad, like, my grandparents had to lock up anything that could harm me in the house. I sat in my bed and cried for weeks. And I actually tried to harm myself. And another thing, I'm not saying this is all her fault or this is all his fault. It is both 50-50. Like, this is equally, neither of them were okay to do that to somebody. Because me personally, I would never do that to somebody. And if you guys want a part 2 on why I'm with him now, after months, I will do that. But yeah, that's honestly probably the most traumatizing thing that ever happened to me, and I'm just so grateful that I had my best friend and that I'm here now and that I'm in a better mental state and that I don't want to harm myself and I don't want to do anything that in the future I would regret. But that is what happened. And yeah, if you guys want a part 2 on why I'm with him now, I'll do it.
Story time on how my mom found out I was 14 and pregnant. Part 7, and hopefully this is the last part. So I just got off the phone with my brother, my older brother, who lived in LA, and he was giving me some advice and pretty much told me that I need to put all my big girl panties on and I need to go stand my ground and speak to my mother, because you ain't gonna control my life no more, woman. I'm just kidding, but no, for real. So I had to walk into my mom's door and I tell her that I need to talk to her. And my mom is staring at me up and down. She is probably judging the fuck out of me. I'm not even gonna lie. But, yeah, so mom was like, all right, well, come inside. Go in her room. And I said, look, I grew up without a dad. You were a single mom your whole life. You know the feeling. I know the feeling of not having a dad around. This is not what I want for my son. And I said, I understand you're upset. I understand the situation. But he is the father of my kid, regardless of what you say. I don't know what you made up in your head about him. But he's not an awful person. He's just a kid, just like me. Like, I don't know why you think this kid is like the fucking devil or something. I don't know. But I'm like, he has never done anything to you. Whenever he's seen you in person, he respected you. So I don't understand where all this hate is coming from. Okay. I said, but he is the father of my son, and he's going to be in the baby's life. He's going to be there when I give birth. Okay. Because I already knew my rights. And if he can't be there, then you can't be there, woman. So pick and choose. Okay. She ended up, obviously, we were crying, having this conversation. She's like, okay, I need to talk to him and I need to talk to his parents. And I said, cool. She goes, here's my phone, call him. And I was like, holy shit, they actually fucking worked. So then I call him off my mom's phone and he's like, hello? And I'm like, hey, it's me. And he was like, why are you calling me off your mom's phone? And I said, well, I have good news to tell you. And I said, I spoke to my mom and she agreed to have you around me and the baby, but she wants to talk to you and your parents. When can you guys come? So I don't know, it was like a few days later, they ended up coming, we ended up talking, and that was that. So then here comes November 3rd. And, but between that, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks before I was about to give birth, his family will come and pick me up. We will go to Baby R Us. We will go shopping. So I was only around for like 2 weeks because, yeah, it was already towards the end of my pregnancy. So then his family had threw me a surprise birthday party on November 3rd. And my water broke. My water broke the day of my baby shower. I was very quiet about because I was very quiet about it because I had no idea what was going on with my body. I thought I'd peed myself. So I remember telling my boyfriend during my baby shower. And I said, hey, like, I need you to come with me to the bathroom. He's like, yeah, sure. So we go to the bathroom. And I'm leaking. And he's like, are you peeing yourself? And I was like, I think so. But whatever. Like, I'll just clean myself. And I'm like, just don't tell nobody. Like, I was so embarrassed. So then we get out the bathroom, and I just enjoyed the baby shower, whatever. And we go home, and they're unloading all the gifts from the truck. And as I'm about to shower, the rest of the fluids come out. And my sister's, I shared a room with my sister at this time, and we had a bathroom in our room. So my sister's like yelling for my mom, hey, my boyfriend already had left with his family, so they were already long gone. And I'm yelling at my mom, and I say, like, my sister's like, hey, I think her water broke. And I'm like, my water broke. Okay, my water broke. So then my mom comes in, and my mom's like, yeah, we need to take you now. She's like, don't even shower, because if you're ruptured down there, we don't need any water to go in, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I didn't even shower, probably smell like ass. So we go to the hospital, they confirmed that I was that my water had ruptured, my water broke. So then they had admitted me, and they started me on Pitocin, and my boyfriend ended up eventually coming a few hours after. And then my mom goes, that baby's not gonna have his last name. Like, I don't know what switched, a fucking light switch. Like, I thought we were good. No, she's like, that baby's not gonna have his last name. And I said, yeah, it will, because first of all, I don't even want to give the baby my last name. I don't even fuck with my dad, so why would I pass his last name down like that? Like, hell no. So I just remember talking to my boyfriend at the hospital. I'm laying in bed, and I said, when they give me the paperwork, I'm going to fill it. I'm going to put your last name on it. And I said, but that's the last paperwork I'm going to fill out before the nurse comes in, so I can handle the papers right away. So that's exactly what I did. We ended up filling all the paperwork. And then obviously the paper where, like, you put all the birth certificate information was there, and I put the baby's name and I put the last name. I did not give the baby my last name because they said absolutely not. And yeah, and that's the end of this story. I ended up having the baby, and he ended up being there and helping me raise the baby, and here we are. Years later, my son is 13 years old. I am 27. And yeah, we're married. We have 2 more kids, and yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being patient. This story took longer than what I thought, and I was using the max time that I can use, which is 10 minutes. But I appreciate you guys all for being patient. And yeah, I will be making another video answering all the questions. I see you guys asking me a bunch of questions. I'm just going to answer them in one video, and that will be the last video of this story. But again, thank you guys so much for listening.
This is a story of some, not all, but some of the things that I experienced at the hands of my older brother. I actually have about a 45-minute video recorded that name drops him and gives a lot more detail, and, you know, just like really dives into the whole story of what I experienced at his hand. But I wanted to go ahead because there's so many new people here, and I've not shied away from expressing a little bit of what I've gone through. I wanted to go ahead and give a little bit more explanation and a little bit more understanding as to what I did experience. So I've actually said in other videos that the first time that my dad's family, my stepmom and my 2 brothers, actually came back into my life was when I was about like 11 or 12 years old. They showed up at my house one day on bicycles and told me that I would be spending the night with them that night. I had no prior knowledge of this. My mom didn't prepare me for this. Nobody let me know ahead of time what was going on until they were literally there to pick me up. That first night that I spent with them was the first time that my older brother ever essayed me. Now, I say that was the first, but actually there was an instance when we were significantly younger, when my dad was in my life for the 2 years between ages 4 to 6, that had happened. This is one that I don't fault him for entirely because of how young we were, and I've been able to chalk that up to just children being inappropriate. However, the later instances, the ones that pick up from the first night that I went back over there at age 11, everything from that point forward, 110% was abuse. Now, the first night that I went and spent with them at 11 years old was the first initial account, again, recent, of physical essay. Now, I've also said in other videos that he essayed me to various degrees and various levels of intensity. One of the other things that I experienced at his hand, the thing that I, to my best knowledge, experienced most often, was his voyeurism. So a voyeur, if for those of you who don't know, is a much more extreme version of a peeping Tom. It is the clinical term for a peeping Tom, somebody who hides in the bushes and peeks into your window and watches you without your knowledge. One of the things that my older brother had done was he had drilled holes into the walls so that he could spy on me.
my bedroom in one of the houses that we lived in, the one that we lived in the longest, I believe, my bedroom shared a wall with the bathroom, and he had drilled a hole from the bathroom all the way to my wall, so that he could see through it and he could watch me do any and everything. He would watch me do things like shower. He would watch me change my clothes. He would watch me use the bathroom. He would watch me do normal things like my homework or have phone calls with friends or listen to music. There were a lot of instances of physical abuse as well beyond just the first night. However, a lot of those things were done while I was sleeping and I was unconscious. I was always informed in the following days or weeks or months at what he had done. He would sneak into my room at night and assault me in my sleep. He would then go and tell his parents that he had done this. His parents never held him accountable, never punished him, never did anything more than lightly scold him for these behaviors. On my end of things, I would be told about these encounters. I would be told about what he had done. And looking back, there are so many different red flags, things like pain that I would have, that I would associate with my period, that as I got older and more aware, realized was not period pain. When my parents would tell me that these things had happened and I would have a very valid emotional reaction to them, I would be threatened. I would be told that I would be sent off to a mental institution, that I was going to be forced. Something to know is that I was actively self-harming at this point, because of all the things that I was going through and the inability to process them. I was told that I would have my door taken away, that I would have my naked body photographed every day for the sake of making sure that I wasn't harming myself further. I would have one parent give me instructions on how to protect myself, that being my stepmother. I would go tell her about these things that she already knew about because he had already admitted to them to her. And if he wasn't admitting to them, he was literally being caught in the act. I would go tell her about these things, and she would tell me how to protect myself, give me tips and tricks on how to keep myself safe instead of holding her son accountable. And my father would punish me for doing these things. So, like, for example, I was told by my stepmother, if you know that he's trying to come into your room, stuff sheets under your door. Once I did this, my dad threatened to take my door away. I was not allowed to lock my door. I was not allowed to have any privacy. I was not allowed to feel safe in my own home. He had recorded me without my knowledge by sticking his phone under my door while I was being intimate with boyfriends. This happened more than once. He was caught at one point doing this and was not made to delete the videos. My dad caught him in the act at one point in time, while, literally in the act, and then almost 2 weeks later, a separate person, not biologically related to my dad, my stepmom, or my brothers, had found these videos on his phone and informed me of them. His best excuse as to why he did these things to me was because he was fascinated with me. He told his mother at one point in time, which then relayed this information to me, that he found me beautiful in a more than a sisterly way, is how he put it. He was fascinated with the fact that I was like this gothic emo kid. He was fascinated with my appearance, fascinated with the way that I carried myself, and he had said something along the lines of feeling like he was drawn to me in a way that he could not help himself. At one point, years after the fact, I had actually confronted him about these things and demanded answers. I wanted to know why he did this to me, how he could justify it, what even led him down this path to begin with. And he had admitted that he knew what he had done was wrong. He admitted to all of it. But he felt that it was not going to cause me lifelong trauma, despite the fact that this whole thing went on for almost a decade, off and on. he said that he had admitted to girlfriends at the time what he had done, and because they didn't react largely, or because of the fact that my parents didn't have large reactions at the time of it happening, it only encouraged him to keep doing it, and he didn't feel a need to be sorry. He told me that he felt that the emotions that I had surrounding these events were mine to sort out, and that if I wanted to not feel so mentally and emotionally stunted by this, that was my own choice, that I was choosing to make him feel bad, make him feel guilty, and that ultimately all of it was my fault for not handling it a better way. I also know through his own admissions and through several other women coming to me over the years that I am far from his only victim. Everything from family members to friends to girlfriends to random women at workplaces have fell victim to him in one way or another. I've decided to share these parts of my life on the internet because I think it's important for people like me to speak out. I think it's important for people who suffered anything from one instance of abuse to long cycles of abuse to speak out against their abusers and to let them know that they no longer have power. I think the most self-righteous thing I could do is speak the truth. You know, some people like to use the term my truth, and I don't think that there is such a thing as my truth. I think there's just the truth. And sharing that and putting that out in the world and letting people, especially the people in my nearby community, because I do have a lot of followers who aren't local to me. I do also have a good handful that are. I think it's important to make my community aware, and I also think it's important for the little girl that lives inside of me to finally use her voice, to know that it's okay to speak.
So, story time of how I'm pretty sure I was going to either get robbed or kidnapped last night. I live in a small town. There's about a population of 7,500 people, and I left my house around 8 o'clock. I was going to get some pizza. So I ordered the pizza, wasn't going to be ready for like 20 to 25 minutes. So I was like, well, I'll burn some time. One of the local grocery stores in our town does like the bargain bins. So it's right next to the pizza place. And I'm like, I'll just waste like 5 or 10 minutes there, whatever. So pull into the parking lot. I am one of like 3 or 4 cars. And I park pretty close to the front of the door because there's no one there. I walk in, and right when you walk in the doors, you turn the corner and the bargain bins are there. And they're set up like lengthwise, and there's probably, 6 to 8 big, long rectangle tables. I walk in, and there's a man at the far side on the very far bin, and another woman kind of closer to the door. It appears that they were not together. They didn't make eye contact. They weren't by each other at all. They left at different times. I don't know that, but it did not seem like they were together. So I started at the closest bin, and I just kind of made my way to the far side. So at some point, the woman had left after a few minutes of me being there, and it was just me and the other man. And, we'd kind of switched because he had started at the far side. Long story short, about 10 minutes goes by, and I'm at the far bin, and he's closest to the door going through some stuff. I got a text that my pizza was ready, so I finished what I was looking at, put it down, and started to walk towards the door. At that time, the guy was still at the first bin, and he started leaving. So we were probably like 15 to 20 foot apart from each other. My intuition based, hindsight, I feel like he didn't realize that I was as close to him as I was. So as we go out the automatic doors, there's a first set and a second set. I just instinctively looked up to see my vehicle, and I parked one spot away from the buggy station where you put the carts in. So there was the buggy station, an empty spot, and then my vehicle, which the driver's side was facing towards the door of the store. And in the parking lot, there were 2 other vehicles that were in the lane behind me, just one spot closer, and then my vehicle. That was the only vehicles in the parking lot. And there was a man standing with his back to the grocery store doors and leaned up against the buggy station, which again, there was only one spot in between that and the driver's door of my car. And he was facing my car, leaned up against the buggy rails. And of course, immediately my kind of red flags were going off. I'm like, that's weird, Second red flag. Obviously, I started kind of slowing down at that point. I made it through the second set of doors and was in the parking lot. The 2 vehicles that were in the row behind me were unoccupied, but both were running. Second red flag. Like, that's a little strange. It's only one person in the parking lot, and there are two vehicles that are both running. And at this point, I had kind of slowed way back down and was almost at a complete stop. Again, I don't think the guy in front of me that was still walking realized I was as close to him as I was. So he kept walking and walked right up to the other guy, and I was close enough to hear this, and he goes, "The parking lot looks clear." And it like stopped me in my tracks. I kind of started poking a little bit further forward. But the second I heard that, I was dead stop, and I was full eye contact. And in that exact moment that he said that to the other guy looked up, saw me, we made eye contact, and then the other guy who said the parking lot looks clear turned around and made eye contact with me. So I stood there for a good like 3 or 4 seconds looking at both of them, turned my happy ass around and went right back inside. Yeah, trust your intuition. So I go inside, and there are two checkout girls who are super young, maybe in high school or very early 20s. And I said, "Hey, I'm just going to hang out with you guys for a couple minutes because there are two like random dudes basically at my driver door right now and two vehicles running, and it just seems a little weird to me." And they were like, yeah, for sure. And bless their hearts, like, they didn't know what to do, right? They were young. They're the only people up front. It was late. There was no one in the store. And so we just kind of all stood there together, and they walked up to the door because I think they were curious of what I was talking about. And the doors are automatic, so they opened, and they just stood there and just like stared at the guys. They like kind of pretended to like do a couple things. They were looking at like a one of the handicap buggies, probably just to like check out the scene, hopefully to make the two men know that, hey, like, there's more people here and we see what you're doing. I feel like if they would have known them, if it was a worker that just got off of work or two workers that just got off, they would have said something. But they kind of meandered around the front doors. Again, they were like, the doors were open for maybe a minute or two, and then turned around and came back in. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make my way back to my vehicle. So by the point that I had been outside and turned around and came back in to when I went back outside was probably like 2 or 3 minutes, at least 2 or 3 to 4 minutes, something like that. So enough time for them to fraternize a little bit and probably get back in their running vehicles, or realize like, hey, we're freaking out this girl, like maybe we should move away from her car. It's obvious that that's probably her car. So I walk out the doors. They were still there. They were both leaned up against the buggy rail at that point. So I had the option of walking around to what would be the nose of my vehicle or the back of my vehicle. They were like dead center right at the door. And I'm like, I'm going to go the back of my vehicle because I don't want to have to walk in front of them and then turn my back to open my door. I want to be able to walk from the back of my vehicle to the front, eye contact the whole time, and open the door. So that's exactly what I did. I opened up my phone. I had my husband like ready to call, and I walked to the back of my vehicle, and by the time I got there, they were obviously both looking at me. So I did not disconnect eye contact from the time that they looked at me until I got in my car and locked it and started it. And something very strange to be noted was when I was making my way to the back of my vehicle, I don't know if they noticed I was out quite yet, but the moment that I came within like hearing distance of them, one of them randomly struck up a conversation about the weather tomorrow. You guys have been talking for like, I don't know, 4 minutes by now, and you're talking about the weather? Interesting. Yeah, interesting. So, made eye contact, opened my door, eye contact, closed my door, eye contact, pressed my lock button very visibly, and started my car, and gave it a couple more seconds and just stared at them. And then I left. So this is a PSA to all of you guys that whether you live in a small town, you don't think you'll ever be targeted. And if that is not what that was, then I'm still going to sleep good at night because I'd rather be much more aware and paranoid than not at all. So I don't know what would have happened. I carry, but in that exact moment, you know, you let your guard down, you're going into your local grocery store, you don't carry. I mean, yeah. So, that's my story, and always protect yourself in whatever manner that is, and always, always, always trust your intuition. If something feels off, it's because it probably is, and if it's not, then who cares, right? Turn your happy ass around and go back inside that grocery store and tell somebody. So, I live to speak another day. Stay safe.
And here we go. I hope you're hungry for nothing.
And right before he had grabbed me and done this to me, he had turned the car off. So I thought I was stuck. So in my state of fawning, I'm just running through any scenario that I can do to try to get help. Mind you, we're right in front of my complex. So I'm just scrambling as to what I'm going to do. As he just sit there smirking at me, looking at me, groping my think, I'm just going to open the door. I open the door. Since he turned the car off, since he wanted to make sure to hold me captive to talk to me and do this to me, thankfully the alarm started going off. So he got freaked out. Apparently this man doesn't know how cars work, because immediately he starts scrambling. Oh my God, what happened? What did I do? What's happening? What's happening? And that right there was my saving grace, because I took to the advantage of the fact that this man could not find his right key. He had a bunch of keys on his keychain. It was dark in the car, so he couldn't see anything. And he was just scrambling and panicking. So I got the hell out of the car. And he tries to turn back at me, and I'm bolting to my door. Thankfully, it's less than 10 feet from where he had decided to stop the fucking car to my door. So I'm just fast walking. And he's yelling after me, wait, please. And I just literally go inside. And I have been in exposure therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy for the past 5 years, because I have very, very, very chronic and severe complex PTSD. As a symptom to the unfortunate years in my earlier years as a young girl, experiencing sexual assault and rape by a member of my last foster family. That has scarred me for life, and that was not the only instance in which a man has taken advantage of me. I suffer with extreme social anxiety to the point where I have panic attacks. I'm on medication to help me with this. I've become very agoraphobic. In exposure therapy, the main topic that we've been working on was getting me to a place where I felt confident enough in myself to be able to go out into the world and do my everyday adult things without panicking that a man is going to do something to me. At one point, things were so bad that I would neglect maintenance of a car I used to drive back when I started therapy with my current therapist in 2020, because the idea of just going to a gas station or somewhere to pump air into my tires was so triggering to me, because that meant my body would be facing in a way that would make me vulnerable to a man to do anything to me. I hate crowds. I hate going in public. I couldn't even go to a gym for the longest time. We've been working with getting me to understand that not every single person has to be dangerous. Last year, I had a consultation with a potential coach when I was living in Ohio, when I decided I wanted to go back to working out. That man also ended up assaulting me. So I dropped the fuck out of that gym. Didn't tell anybody, just moved, left it. Didn't pay anything until they just dropped me as a member, because I just was not willing to deal with it. This has been my biggest fear to happen to me all of my life. Granted, it didn't go as far as I feared the most that it could go, that could have gone. But I feel that had I not opened the door and the car hadn't honked so loudly that my entire neighborhood could hear, he most likely would have probably turned that car back on and probably done something else. There will never be a way or a reason in which I will ever feel comfortable with any man. I will never trust a man. Nobody can ever try to gaslight me and be like, not all men. He was entrusted with this duty of being able to drive people. He had one fucking job, which was to drive me and get me home. I didn't ask for the engagement. I didn't ask for the assault. I didn't ask to constantly be preyed on. I'm just working. I'm surviving. And he could hear because I kept coughing and sniffling, and he even tried to give me some suspicious fucking opened non-capped drink and kept trying to pressure me. He's like, oh, this will make you feel better. It's tea. So I had to lie my fucking ass off and say that I was allergic. And he was like, no, try it. And even chugged a little bit of it to try to coerce me into trusting him that because he drunk it, it must be safe so I could drink it. And I fucking didn't. I don't even know what to like say further than this. I've not allowed myself to truly like cry about this because it'll make it too real right now. But I'm just so grateful for my neighbor, and I'm just so grateful for her support because immediately as I got in, we talked and I told her exactly what happened. So yeah, if you're a young woman, immediately activate the women only options because these men are fucking wild. Me with my looks, me being kind is not an invitation for you to fucking assault me. And it's not an invitation for you to take advantage of the position in which you were hired on to provide me with a service. Just because you have me in an enclosed space. Best believe I will be contacting Uber in the morning and telling them exactly what happened. I already tried calling tonight, but customer service is not in operating hours right now. But yeah. This needs to stop. You men are feeling way too fucking comfortable. And then y'all want to come to us talking about you're having a loneliness epidemic. Fuck all of you. How about that? This is disgusting. How fucking dare you? I'm vulnerable, being sick. I'm exhausted after working. And just because I look the way I do or because I'm young, you feel like you can just prey on me and assert yourself on me. This man literally made a point to tell me that he thought I was 19. And I said, no, sir, I'm 30. And he said, oh, wow. I just can't believe it. It's so exciting to me. You look so young. That was the very line that made me drop my freaking location to my neighbor. At this point, all of y'all just need to be in jail and prove your way out of there. I have no further words. I've been so upset. I feel disgusting. Anyway, ladies, just stay vigilant. Lie your ass off if it means protecting yourself. And to be honest, just get the fuck out of the vicinity of men.
What if I was suicidal? What if that was my last straw?
Yesterday, all over social media was the story of Maddie Kowalski, that if you are a parent, it is imperative that you understand this situation. And I'm going to give my perspective as an ear nurse of some things that I did not realize until I did this profession when it comes to situations like this, okay? So specifically, this young girl, 18 years old, was at college, went to a frat party, and according to herself, in her own words, she got blackout drunk, basically. She does not recall the events. Therefore, she could not give consent. And there were multiple individuals that took advantage of the situation, and they filmed her, took photographs of her, and then distributed it all over social media, obviously ruining her life and causing a lot of issues. But more so than that is the fact that she could not give consent to things that were done to her by multiple individuals. And what is crazy is she is saying that she's pursuing litigation. Is that in criminal court or civil court? I'm not aware of. I'm not sure. She does not disclose because it is incredibly hard in criminal court. And let me tell you why. As an ear nurse, I had a patient who is a victim. We called the team, it's called the SAVE team, and it is a team by the police department that is medically trained to make sure that any evidence that they collect, it will stand up in court because they've done a procedure that keeps the evidence safe, okay? So the safe team officer comes and she tells me after she performs the exam how just awful this is because the girl will probably not get justice in the scenario. And I was very confused because the scenario in the ER of my patient was that she had invited 2 male friends up to her apartment that she was friends with. They ate dinner together, they drank entirely too much, but she still cognitively was aware that she said no multiple times and they still forced themselves upon her. Hence why she came to the ER seeking justice. But the safe team officer told me that cases like this, where both parties were drinking, are incredibly hard to prosecute because you have to prove criminal intent, and the intent just shows every step of the way up until that act there was, consent, mutual consent, if you will. And I never realized it was so hard to get justice for these victims because something as simple as drinking alcohol can impede your case. So something that I have chosen to tell my kids about is that if you are out at a party, if you are out socializing, do not get wasted. And also, know your surroundings, know who you're with. The other thing that's really awful about this case is you should see the comments to this girl's video of her speaking out about what happened to her. The men, if your brother or son is on those comments, it's an embarrassment. They are absolutely the worst comments that just show how awful our society has deviated. It's disgusting. And also the multiple men that were involved in the acts that they performed on her, it's wild. That's disgusting. Like, why would you continuously repeat after somebody else was there? That's what I don't understand. Freaking disgusting.